Welcome back to Unbossed. I'm Rayyvana filling in for Senator Nina Turner once again, 2 days in a row. Can you believe how lucky you all are to be here with me today? And for all of you who are here with me today, don't forget to subscribe to the channel or subscribe on Twitch and give it a follow if you're watching on there. Don't forget to share this stream, send it to your friends, send it to your frenemies. And don't forget to send some love in the comments so that I can read that after our breaks today. And today I'm joined by Ben Gleib from Rebel HQ, also a comedian with a special out on YouTube. Ben, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure, Ray. Good to see you again. Back-to-back days as well for us.
Right, yeah, and you're on with me tonight, right, on the main show?
Indeed, hour 2.
Nice, full week for both of us here.
You and I are basically like a traveling political commentary team now.
Exactly, yeah. But we'll let you stick with the jokes. I've been trying out a few today, and they all fell flat about the arraignment. So you'll do that. I'll give the facts and
copy that.
Fantastic. So there is some news going on today. If you haven't heard, I'm going to assume it's because you're living under a rock. But Donald Trump is being arraigned, and we've got some footage, so let's all take a look.
We're looking live here. The motorcade has arrived here at the federal courthouse. So again, you're looking live, folks. This is the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Courthouse in Miami. There you go, heavily armed officials getting out of the motorcade here, all to protect the former president as he exits his motorcade and into this federal courthouse where the arraignment will happen.
So Trump appeared in court today and pled not guilty to absolutely nobody's surprise. And before that, though, he wanted to make it known that he thinks this is all a hoax if he hasn't gotten that message to you sufficiently yet.
He did? He said that? I can't believe it.
I know, it's so out of character for him.
I also love how much protection we give to traitors. It's very comforting.
Right. We don't give, we lock up heroes like Chelsea Manning. Trump gets to travel around with armed guards. But he took to Truth Social, and I know that none of you are on that site, and pretty much no one is on that site. So you probably haven't seen this yet. But he truthed out this morning. This is and he capitalized it for some reason, thug, overturned consistently and unanimously in big cases that Biden and his corrupt Injustice Department stuck on me. He's a radical right lunatic and Trump hater. And Trump hater, as are all his friends and family who probably planted information in I'm sorry, that's in quotation marks, boxes. Give it to, as if we haven't all seen the pictures of the boxes.
The concept of boxes is confusing to people, Ray.
Or the theoretical boxes. And aren't we all just trapped in boxes in life?
Yep. Trump is a mime trying to escape from his own demise.
We're trapped in 2 little boxes right now. Sorry, boxes.
Very strong point.
But he finished his truth by saying they taint everything that they touch, including our country, which is rapidly going to hell. But that's not where he stopped. He continued in this next one.
I just have a quick request. Please don't refer to his posts as truths. I know he calls them that, but that's his whole plan.
I just don't think it's gonna take off the website. And usually I say it like truth. There's a connotation there.
Truth boxes.
Right. So he lied this out as well today, the second one, and said the grand jury was never told about the Presidential Records Act or the Clinton Sox case, both exonerating, which is funny because I'm sorry, he wouldn't know. He wouldn't know exactly what information the grand jury had access to. He wouldn't be privy to that. So he has no clue. Maybe they were told about both, or I really don't think the Clinton Sox thing was something a prosecutor would.
What is the Clinton Sox? I never even heard of this until now. The Clinton, he never heard Hillary Clinton apparently wore socks. If you don't know that, that would make it very clear I should be allowed to commit treason and espionage. Hillary Clinton sometimes wore socks with her pantsuits. Yeah, true.
It was actually Bill Clinton wore socks and sandals once. So it was a huge scandal.
I mean, you should be locked up for that. You should be locked up for that. I just want to make sure no one saw my toes. That's right.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
But so some Trump fans went down to the courthouse and they decided to make a little bit of a ruckus in support. Don't worry, Trump was well protected. He had all of his armed guards, but there was a little commotion. So let's take a look.
We lost Trump! We lost Trump! We lost Trump! We lost Trump! We lost Trump!
We just want to show support for our president since it's a two-justice system here.
Exactly.
We want to show that.
Where's all the paperwork on Biden?
Yeah, Biden has things like in his garage. I saw it.
As a vice president.
Right.
Not even able
As a
to
senator,
declassify.
too.
I am tired of the Department of Justice, the FBI, sitting on their rear ends and not doing anything about the Hunter Biden laptop. They've had it for a couple of years.
We have an evil world, and it could be that God allows Trump to go to jail, but if he does, Trump should say, I want to go to the gulag, and I want to go in there with them, and I'll run from jail, and then we'll pull them all out.
Wow, it's a real meeting of the minds going on here outside.
I saw it. He had classified documents in his garage. I saw it with my own two eyes, Archie. Is that Archie Bunker's wife? What was that?
I really like you can tell they're trying to use the same language Trump does. The first lady said, we have a two justice system. Obviously, she meant to say two-tier justice system, which is true for entirely different reasons. But, oh, that's so good. I mean,
and they had the actual Uncle Sam there, Ray. That was
right.
Incredible how they got him. That's a big booking.
It's just, if those are the people who are out there supporting me, I'm just gonna plead guilty. Honestly, I don't want to be associated with this. But another Trump enabler is actually one of his GOP primary competitors, Vivek Ramaswamy, who showed his support for the former president. He also had some trouble working a megaphone today, so let's take a look at that.
This is an announcement of a letter that my campaign has sent to every other campaign in this race. I will tell you that we have sent this letter, and I'm happy to announce this is my commitment on January 20th, 2025, if I'm elected the next US president, to pardon Donald J. Trump for these offenses in this federal case.
You use my bullhorn.
Thank you. How do you do it?
You just take this, here, like that, press the button right here. Nobody can hear you at all.
Can you hear me?
Here, use that.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Good, so I'll be fine without this. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I promise no one has to worry. This man will never be president of the United States. He will never have the opportunity to pardon Trump.
I will run this country because I'm capable. I'm incapable of running basic electronics, but the entire country and therefore the world, since America kind of leads stuff, I got you. I'm sorry, what is that? I press the button. Do I talk into the fat end that it gets amplified from, or do I talk into the microphone? Okay, I don't need it. I don't need it.
I also like the image of him using the megaphone into the microphone. What is the purpose? You've got the microphone. Just stick with the microphone.
And it's more of these idiots that keep missing the greatest chance to put Trump away as competition. The guy is literally indicted for federal espionage crimes, and they're all like, I love him, he's right. This is the main thing that could differentiate me because our policies are the same, but let's support the criminal.
I really enjoyed the part where Ramaswamy held up the piece of paper. Why? You didn't need to bring it. If you just said you sent a letter, we'd believe you. We don't need a visual that nobody can read.
If you have the vision of a fighter pilot and happen to be in the front row, you too know the promise I make to America.
Okay, so that was some of the chaos happening outside of the courthouse. Let's get into the facts of the indictment, of the arraignment, what he might be facing if he's convicted, which he should be convicted, but God only knows what's gonna happen. So Washington Post reported the maximum punishment for each count of unlawful retention of national defense information is 10 years in prison. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, tampering with grand jury evidence, and concealing evidence in a federal investigation all carry punishments of up to 20 years. Each false statement charge is punishable by up to 5 years in prison. If Trump was convicted on all charges, the sentences could run consecutively, amounting to hundreds of years in prison. But federal defendants are rarely given the maximum possible punishment. He does not face any mandatory minimum sentences. Now, Ben, I'll be honest, I really didn't ever, expect before the first indictment, I didn't expect that was gonna happen. I didn't expect this one to happen. So I guess my judgment here of what's likely the outcome is been a little bit skewed. So what do you think? Do you think that he's gonna be convicted?
I mean, on the merits of the indictment, he certainly should be. I read through already about 2/3 of the full legal indictment this morning, and it's incredibly damning. The evidence that they have, I mean, not only did he have documents that were marked, he was then told he had the documents, he then refused to give them back. He then put them in a bathroom that people had access to, put them in a big dining hall people had access to that any guest could go into. He then admitted to guests he had the documents, admitted they were classified. He then showed the documents to people, showed it to a reporter on record, on being recorded, not on record, but being recorded with his permission. He said, these are still classified, they're secret, but here are plans for an attack. Check this out. Of course he should be indicted, but there is no way to know because as random luck, I guess, would have it, the judge assigned to the case, of course, is a Trump appointee who has made a lot of hard to explain decisions on Trump's behalf in the past. So that sucks, Major League, but we'll see. Maybe it's too undeniable at this point, and maybe he gets a year or two in jail. Maybe he gets, that's my wish.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Although I don't know what kind of prison you could put Trump in as a former president of the United States, in the interest of protecting the safety of him and the other prisoners. I don't know. I don't know where you could put him. He'd have to be in solitary.
He's got to be in solitary, and he'd be completely fine in solitary. The man loves his own voice and his own company perfectly, but you can't put Trumpy in a box. So that's the other problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep everybody updated on what's going on with the arraignment, and throughout the day, TYT is going to keep you updated on developments there. Let's move on into this next story where a massive highway collapse occurred in Philadelphia on Sunday after a driver lost control of a tanker truck that caught fire beneath an overpass. And of course, Fox News host Jesse Waters, while covering this, blamed Pete Buttigieg's quest for equity for the collapse of I-95. Let's watch.
Infrastructure, but we have been surrounded by reminders of the importance of our infrastructure, which is why we're coming together at such an important moment.
That speech reminded me of another one that we play on this by another person in the administration. The latest disaster has some calling into question Buttigieg's obsession with equity over actually fixing America's crumbling infrastructure. The transportation secretary launching a $1 billion pilot to build racial equity into roads and has spoken in the past about how construction workers are not diverse enough. Jesse, it is something to see infrastructure like that crumble, and we know that we need to do things for infrastructure, but this is going to cause a huge amount of problems in that area for months.
Well, that was a racist highway that deserves to die.
They recovered a body from the scene, and Jesse Waters' commentary is, the highway was racist because in the past, Pete Buttigieg has mentioned that historically our infrastructure has been, one, constructed in a way to benefit majority white communities and disadvantaged black communities, and two, the upkeep of those has heavily been advantaging the majority white neighborhoods over the majority black neighborhoods. Even here in Chicago, if you look at the roads up here on the north side versus the roads on the south side, I mean, there's barely roads on the south side at this point. They are so deeply damaged, and there's not being, there hasn't in the past been an effort to address this racial inequity. So God forbid someone step up and do it, because then you've got Jesse Waters' idiot ass on you complaining about it and calling the roads racist when you'd have to be a moron to think that's what was meant. I mean, Ben, I hate watching Fox News clips. They always piss me off, but this stuff in particular, when they blame people, whenever there's a an infrastructure issue, they'll say, oh, well, Pete Buttigieg was too busy raising his babies, his gabies to, care. But that just really gets under my skin.
Yeah, it is thoroughly infuriating watching any Fox News clip. Not like Dana Perino knows any better talking about. In the past, he's talked about making sure hiring is fair. Can you believe that? But just the smarminess on these people, they don't even give off the vibe that they're trying to present the news. They just give off the vibe of like smarmy, privileged frat boys at like a Ivy League school being like, oh, I guess that was a racist road that people died under on account of the gay transportation secretary wanting roads to be non-racist and gay. I don't even know. Yeah, sure, I'll take another martini. I mean, it's just they're such smarmy, bad faith idiots. It's very unpleasant to see them talking publicly. I wish they would have a gag order, maybe like a towel in their mouth with some sort of a thing that makes them go, oh, I'm just gonna rest for a little while.
Speaking of gay roads, have you seen the videos of sometimes crosswalks will be painted the rainbow flag for Pride Month? Conservatives being so mad about it that they refuse to step on the crosswalk. So they're just walking in traffic to avoid stepping on a rainbow crosswalk. And I think that is so emblematic of the conservative ideology.
Yes, they see a pride colored sidewalk and they suddenly channel Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future. Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
But speaking of roads, let's pull up these pictures of the collapse on I-95 in Pennsylvania. So here's this image. You can see where the smoke from the fire is. And if we pull up these next images, you can get a better look at how severe the smoke coming from there was and the damage to the road. And then CNN reported some updates on the crash itself. So according to that reporting, authorities are working to identify a body recovered from the wreckage. The highway overpass came crashing down around 6:20 a.m. Sunday after a tanker truck carrying 8,500 gallons of gasoline crashed and exploded in flames under it. Officials said the truck had taken an off-ramp, crashed into its side while trying to go around a curve, slammed into a wall and ignited a fire. It could take months to rebuild the damaged section of the highway, a major East Coast highway that typically carries about 160,000 vehicles through Philadelphia daily. So I mean, this is a huge story. This is going to be a huge undertaking to repair. It's going to be, and obviously there's been the loss of life there as well. So of course Fox News isn't going to cover any of that. They're just going to talk about racist roads and gay roads. I mean, people don't go there for their news anyway, but.
It's true. People go there for their outrage, but I personally think the real story being kind of buried here is not enough people are talking about the reckless driver of an 85,000 gallon oil tanker. How about when you got that much gasoline in your car, you take it easy on the turns? How about you ease into the turns on account of your car is very flammable?
Right. We've also seen a lot of reports about, the ridiculous hours that truckers in the industry are forced to work. So we, have to stay on top of the story to see if that played a role in it.
True also, but pull over. You're that tired. You're not, gosh, I'm real tired. I got a very flammable car that could destroy a highway. Let's just turn this real quick like it's on rails and see what happens. Not the move.
All right, so if you're out there driving and you're tired, pull over, everybody. But we have to pull over quick for a break right now.
Nicely done.
Thanks. So when we come back, we'll be reading some of your comments. So stick around.
Our system is inherently rigged against the will of the people.
They have 50% of the vote, and in a democracy, they should have 50% of the seats.
But if you live in an insanely gerrymandered district, your vote functionally doesn't matter.
We drew the map in a way that even though we get 50% of the vote, we're gonna get 13 out of the 18 seats.
You don't actually have the ability to translate the will of the voters in your area into actual government policy.
They should not be allowed to gerrymander these districts. We should actually have a democracy.
Been honest with him, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it, but instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
Welcome back to Unbossed. I'm joined today by Ben Gleib once again. And Ben, you've got something going on that you want to tell the people about, right?
That's a fact. I would love to talk to the people. Hello, people. I am very excited. So I created the world's first virtual comedy venue called Nowhere Comedy. I'm not even in this show on Saturday night, but it's so good I wanted to tell you about it. The legendary Doug Stanhope will be appearing on the roundtable discussion of Green Room with Paul Provenza live from Paul's backyard. It's an inside thing that's only private invites to Paul's backyard, but you can get a ticket to be there live with Annie Letterman and a bunch of other comedians performing, and then being part of this roundtable discussion with Doug and Paul and Kelly Carlin, George Carlin's daughter, will be there. It's going to be an amazing, amazing event. You can get a ticket if you'd like right now. I believe it's still early bird pricing of just like $10 at nowherecomedy.com. It's this Saturday evening, 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern.
Awesome.
Nowherecomedy.com.
Everybody, you got to go check that out this Saturday. It said 10:30 Eastern.
Correct.
Fantastic. All right. Well, check that out, but also don't forget to check out Unbossed VODs whenever you miss this show live. You can always watch videos on demand on the YouTube channel. You can find full clips by scanning that QR code, or you can just go to youtube.com/unbossed TYT. That's youtube.com/unbossed TYT. Also want to say special thanks to all the mods for keeping the chat clean, safe, and fun. You're wonderful. We love you. You make the chat fun, you keep it safe, you keep it clean. I've got the chat pulled up. I'm looking at you out of the corner of my eye. I see what a good job the mods are doing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Also want to remind everybody to become a member. Only $4.99 a month. Your contribution gets to keep TYT independent, keeps Unbossed independent, and allows us to continue reporting the facts corporate media doesn't want you to know, and they won't tell you. Help us fight for a future where the media doesn't do the bidding of the establishment. See how you can make an impact at tyt.com/impact. And lastly, I want to remind you all that the TYT Juneteenth special is coming up. It'll be on Friday, June 16th at 8 p.m. They'll have some special guests, including Senator Nina Turner, Mayor Mondale Robinson, Sharon Reed, Adrian Lawrence, and J.R. Jackson. So they're going to discuss the history of Juneteenth, its significance in today's current political climate. So you can just watch that where you watch TYT, tyt.com/live, or on YouTube and on Twitch. Okay, let's get into what you guys are saying. Looney Tunes over on Twitch says, oh hell yeah, we get more Ray and Ben tonight. Yes, you do. Double dose.
Very exciting for everybody involved.
Neil Mix says of the woman in the Trump video from the protest, wow, she spelled innocent correctly. Amazing. That is a feat for a Trump supporter. They're not known for their literacy. Over on YouTube, Neil Mix says, I'll take, quote, too much time on their hands for $400, Alex. And then one dead hippie says, this is what happens when you defund public education for 40 plus years. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I done seen it with my own eyes. Biden had it too. He's also got a special counsel investigating it, and he also didn't refuse to turn the documents back in and hide them in a bathroom. But I still done seen it. I gotta go.
I also like the defense that Trump's bathroom door had a lock on it. Like, yeah, when he's in there.
Yeah, from the inside is how bathroom door locks typically go, unless you're trying to trap people in your bathroom, which I wouldn't put beyond Trump, to be honest.
Right. All right, last comments. Let's move over to the members section. Texan says, Ben and Ray, the perfect people to dunk on the former president's perp walk. Thank you. And then Mountain Dragon says, pump your fist, Turner time with the wonderful Ray to help us out. I miss the powerful senator, but loving the time and presence of the great Rayyvana. TYT has the best people in the world to help guide us through this crazy news thread we go through every day. Oh, that was the nicest. That was so sweet. Thank you. You just made my day, Mountain Dragon. Honestly, sometimes I'll look.
Sorry, go ahead. That person didn't like me very much, but go ahead.
Sometimes I'll look over out of the corner of my eye. This happened last week, and I just saw a comment that said, ew, Rayyvana. And I was like, oh no. Good. I'm glad I read that one. So Mountain Dragon, you have canceled that out. So thank you for that. But Ben, are you ready to get into this next story?
I am not. Could I have about 7 minutes? All right, fine. Let's do it.
All right, trigger warning, everybody. Charlie Kirk.
Welcome to the White House.
Thank you.
Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Year. Happy Pride Life.
Yes! Can we take a little video? Hi, Mr. President. It is an honor. Trans rights are human rights. Oh, it's a video. Oh, it's a video. The monument is in right?
Gay news. It's so damn. Are we topless at the White House?
Hi, feminine.
So would it surprise you at all to see that the celebration of Pride at the White House really ticked off one large-headed individual, Charlie Kirk? I bet it wouldn't. So we're gonna discuss this, but first let's bring up how he described the scenario. Trans TikTok quote influencer, which is ironic, Charlie Kirk, because what would you describe yourself as then? If influencer is a fake job, what the hell is it that you do? Rose Montoya posed topless at Biden's White House Pride celebration. Next to, he misgenders her, is a biological female, also topless, who had, and also some more misgendering, her breast surgically removed. So first of all, I want to say, if you don't see a trans woman as a woman, what are you offended by when you see her breasts then? If that is-
That's a strong question.
Right, if men can go topless, that's not a non-issue. So why would you be offended if you don't see her as a woman to see her breasts, which she covered with her hands? I mean, nothing inappropriate was being shown. So I don't know, Ben, where do we start with this?
Look, as you know, Charlie Kirk is my nemesis, and I am the one that made very public that he thinks human beings and dolphins are the same thing. So I hate to side with Charlie Kirk, and I don't appreciate his intentional misgendering. But on this issue, I do agree with the right. I think it was totally inappropriate for these people to go topless at the White House. People don't do that. You've never seen that at a straight event honoring anybody. And I think it really undermines the cause of LGBTQ rights for the push for people to be seen equally and treated equally, and for them to be able to effectively combat the accusation that they are trying to do lewd and lascivious things in public, to do that at the White House. It's never been done to my knowledge that I've ever seen. Shouldn't be a man topless, shouldn't be a woman topless. If you had Kid Rock at the White House also topless, then 100% it's cool, but it's not okay. They knew it wasn't okay, and that's why someone in the background at the moment goes, ooh, are we going topless at the White House? I think it's a big mistake, and I really think it was kind of gross that it was done.
Okay, fair enough. I think we defer a bit on this. I felt like it was kind of an innocent moment, especially it was mostly trans men there, who were showing their top surgery scars off in the picture, I don't necessarily.
Why?
I don't think the White House. Well, I mean, it's a big moment for the White House to recognize gay and trans rights. They're showing the kids that we have a government that's going to stand behind us, and eventually, or just to show the public, they are behind us on this. Should she have taken her top off? Probably not. But I fully stand behind the trans men there showing off their surgical scars. If they were taking a picture, they were taking a TikTok. I don't see the White House as some
showing surgery scars at the White House. Are they trying to make the White House be stuck in a tough position where they don't want to support LGBTQ people in the future? They don't want to support trans people in the future. They're going to take off and show surgery scars of their naked chest if it's a guy or a girl. It makes no sense.
I don't know. I just don't see the White House as this, I think that in the past we've seen the White House, if it's supposed to be a respected establishment, disrespected on multiple occasions throughout history. I think the fact that it's a location where the largest slave trade occurred is, maybe evidence that worse things have happened there. But I don't know.
We don't set the bar based on low bars. I mean, the bad things that happened in the White House, people have had to generally pay the price for that, and big scenes are made about that. It's not like Bill Clinton's inappropriate behavior there was not made into a national scene for years.
Well, he wasn't exactly the person who got the backlash for that, though. not as far as his career went. He was able to be the president and then retire, and I don't know, look wilted in public next to his wife for some time. That being said, I respect your opinion on this. Personally, I don't know. After years of my community being oppressed, I think that this moment of silliness and joy was a lot more innocent than it's being framed by the right wing to be. And just to that point,
to me, it's just feeding the right wing. It's just feeding the right wing unnecessarily and putting fodder right into their hands.
I mean, no matter what happened, they're complaining about the pride flag being displayed. No matter what happened there, they were gonna be outraged, and there was gonna be, theoretical fodder. But we're getting the sign that we have to move on to the next graphic, so let's do that. This is Todd Starnes. I don't know who the hell this guy is. Some conservative person who said, "Could someone explain why transgender activists were permitted to disrobe in front of children on the White House lawn during Biden's gay palooza?" Which, to that point, it was mostly men's bare chests. The idea that a child is going to be scandalized by something they would see at the beach, to me, is ridiculous. They wrote #perverts, #criminal, which again, there's no criminal act being committed, even if you have a disagreement with what they did. They didn't do anything illegal. Men in my neighborhood walk around shirtless constantly. They mow their lawns against my wishes, genuinely shirtless. But let's keep going. There's CJ Pearson here. This is the White House. Joe Biden has brought more shame onto this country than any other president in American history, which is a strong statement considering several presidents were slave owners and Andrew Jackson genocided most of the native population. So, well, there's that. Let's go down to Michael Knowles, which is the 5th graphic. Just moving along. Yeah, which group is more degenerate, the transvestite strippers or the White House staff that invited them? Jesus Christ, Michael, you played a gay character in a movie. Michael, there's a video of you pretending that you just had sex with another man, rolling at it. Was that degenerate? It was okay when you were just playing gay for money, but God forbid people actually be gay. And then lastly, Dana Loesch says, "No, this isn't another hookers and blow photo from Hunter's laptop," which, okay, I'm not even gonna give that one. I'm just gonna stop right there. The pictures on Hunter Biden's laptop are actual nude pictures. They are him in the middle of a sex act. This is 3 men and a woman topless. Like, for the love of God, get some perspective. I don't know. All right.
I still think those aren't even comparable because you're allowed to shoot personal, if it's with people of age consenting, you're allowed to have personal sex videos on your own laptop. Probably shouldn't do it at one of the places we do try to hold a little bit of decorum at. That said, and based on the point you made earlier, Ray, I would like to apologize to all of my neighbors for walking my dog shirtless and kind of trying to get sun. I'm sure they don't love it. It's not a great scene, but I got to get my tan in.
whenever you're able to get it in. I mean, our jobs, we for the most part sit in front of a computer. You're doing stand up indoors. Whenever you're able to get the tan, you got to do it. But as long as we're talking about conservative outrage about Pride Month, let's move into something more positive at the beginning, and then the conservative outrage to that, which was that country star Garth Brooks faced a boycott after saying his new bar would serve all beers, including Bud Light, which, a few months ago, that sentence would not seem like it would be something that would cause outrage. But because we live in this ridiculous world we live in now, of course it does. So let's go to this reporting from Insider. Brooks, the second best-selling musical artist of all time. Wait, I'm sorry, is that true? That caught me off. Really? Okay. The second best-selling musical artist of all time told Billboard he hoped Friends in Low Places bar at Honky Tonk, which is set to open in the South Broadway district of Nashville, would be, quote, the Chick-fil-A of honky tonks. I want it to be a place you feel safe in. I want it to be a place where you feel like there are manners and people like one another, he said. And yes, we're going to serve every brand of beer. We just are. It's not our decision to make. Our thing is this: if you are let into this house, love one another. If you're an asshole, there are plenty of other places on Lower Broadway. Several bars in the same section of Lower Broadway, including Kid Rock's big ass honky tonk rock and roll steakhouse, removed Bud Light from the menu in early April. But when Insider looked at the steakhouse's website in June, the beer was back on the menu. Brooks' decision to support the beer has angered some of the country star's conservative audience. The hashtag boycott Garth Brooks has more than 30,700 views. So, I mean, come on, it's a beer. They're a beer that has been supporting Republican conservative causes financially for years. They sent one specialized can to a trans influencer, and conservatives lost their minds. Although I will say it's nice that Garth Brooks didn't just sort of put out a statement like, we already made a deal with Bud Light, we're not gonna pull. He actually said, hey, don't be an asshole when you come into my restaurants. Respect one another. I think that's something at least.
I agree. I've always liked Garth Brooks. I like his music, and I like that he is standing by this. And it just again proves the absurdity of the selective outrage of the right, because Kid Rock's bar, as you read, has Bud Light back on the menu. That's not a problem because it's Kid Rock, who used to drink Bud Light while standing next to transgender people and next to drag queens, and has always supported until it got him headlines to not do it. So it's very, very stupid. Blame it all on my roots. I support different groups, including the LGBT. I love them for it.
Kid Rock, who wrote a song for the movie Osmosis Jones, where he talks about statutory rape in a positive way. That's not grooming. That song isn't grooming, which why the hell is it in that movie? But anyway.
Well, that's not the same as giving a promotional can to a human, right?
Right. Okay. Speaking of conservative outrage and ghoulish behavior, let's move into this next story, which is really disappointing to me as a fan of the WNBA and Brittany Greiner. But upon her return to the United States after being freed from Russian prison, Brittany Greiner, has faced a lot of harassment online and in the media by right-wingers who felt that she wasn't worth being saved. And it appears that even though some time has now passed, it's not letting up. So let's watch this outrageous video.
Was that a fair trade for the merchant of death? I know you kill it on the court, but he kills it in real life. Is it true you had to have sex with Vladimir Putin to get released from Russia, Britt?
Get out of the way, dog.
Britt.
Get out of the way.
Britt, is it true you had to?
Get out of the way.
What about his wife?
What are you doing?
I was trying to talk to Brittany.
I want to say shut the hell up. I want to say shut the hell up to every single person who is pretending that they know who the merchant of death is, or every single person who is pretending that they had any inkling of an idea who that person was until it came time to make a trade to save an American citizen. Someone who has been, out of the game apparently for decades upon decades, who the first thing he did upon being released was an interview in a magazine where he said there's too many genders in the United States. I'm not afraid of that guy. He doesn't have any sort of institutional power. He's not a threat to you. For the love of God, the fact that you think that we should, keep someone who's an old man now rotting in what we could be a United States citizen from an unfair jail in Russia is beyond me. It is disgusting to me. And I've seen time and time again, conservatives saying, it's the worst trade deal in history. You don't know anything. Shut the hell up. And Ben, maybe it's because I am passionate about women's sports that I feel so strongly about this, but I think that it's ridiculous. They didn't know who that person was.
They definitely didn't know who the person was. And I don't think this harassment of Brittany Griner's cool, and the person just clearly not even trying to have a conversation, but is looking at his own camera, smiling and trying to get attention for himself, and it's pretty disgusting. That said, so glad Brittany Griner's home, so glad we made the deal. Not a fair trade, not an appropriate trade in my opinion. I mean, literal terrorist for a basketball player doesn't seem, just on the facts of it, like a fair trade, and seems like we came from a position of weakness. But I also think it's important to bring Americans home, and hopefully the person is too old to do any more horrible acts. But I guess I see that a little bit differently. But the person's behavior is deplorable regardless.
Yeah, and speaking of that deplorable behavior, let's talk about him and who he is. So that was right-wing media personality Alex Stein, who is just being an absolute asshole. And that's, I wish I could put it in different terms. Unfortunately, I cannot. But so let's get into some more details about what was happening there from Yahoo News. According to a police report obtained by ESPN, the man who was described by the WNBA as a provocateur approached Griner as her team was walking through a concourse at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport on Saturday morning. The team was traveling to Indiana for a Sunday game after facing the Dallas Wings twice in Griner's home state of Texas. The incident reportedly occurred in Dallas-Fort Worth's Terminal A, which is the exclusive terminal of American Airlines. The man, who apparently did not have an American Airlines ticket, reportedly left via the Skylink train towards terminals B and D. So Brittany Griner's teammate, Brianna Turner, put out a statement to show her support, but also raise awareness of some of the safety issues that the WNBA players have to face. She tweeted, "Player safety while traveling should be at the forefront. People following with cameras saying wild remarks is never acceptable. Excessive harassment. Our team nervously huddled in a corner, unsure how to move about. We demand better." And they have been demanding better for a long time. They've been pushing for enhanced safety, and they've particularly been capitalizing on this moment where more and more people are paying attention because of what happened with Brittany Griner. But some more information on that from Yahoo News. Players have requested for years that the league allow them to travel via charter flights, an idea the league has consistently rejected and forbidden because it would be too expensive. Some teams have signaled a willingness to pay for them and incurred punishments for actually doing so, but the league has deemed it an unfair advantage. The politicization of Griner's situation, however, created an obvious security risk in traveling via public airport terminals. And I would like to say that just because that wasn't included in that report, they say it would be too expensive, but the players have outlined a plan in which it would be fully funded, especially with the teams who have a willingness to pay for it. Their owners have a willingness to pay for it. So that's sort of just been a ridiculous excuse, especially considering how much money the people who own the teams are making as individuals. The league, the NBA more broadly is making in profits. It's doable, and it should be done to protect the safety of these players, in my opinion.
As a road traveling stand-up comedian, my level of empathy for people being heckled, being some sort of major emergency, is not through the roof. I don't know that it's a major safety concern. It's just annoying personally and an inconvenience, but I think they should be taken care of as much as the league and the teams can afford. I don't see any reason not to.
Right, they could do it. They're just dragging their feet on it. So support for the WNBA players as they continue to battle for, just to be treated fairly in sports. Let's move on to this next story. A Mississippi civil rights lawyer was arrested for filming a police officer during a traffic stop, and now there's an added element to it. So let's get into this. From the Associated Press, a Mississippi civil rights lawyer was arrested Saturday after filming a traffic stop conducted by officers from a police department she is suing in federal court, her attorney says. Jill Collin Jefferson is the president of Julian, the civil rights organization that filed a federal lawsuit last year against the Lexington Police Department on behalf of a group of city residents. Michael Carr, Jefferson's attorney, told the Associated Press she was arrested late Saturday evening after she filmed officers after they pulled someone over. And we have a picture here of Jefferson to pull up. There's Jefferson. Now, Jefferson was arrested 9 days after Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark of the US Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division traveled to Lexington to meet with community members about allegations of police brutality in the small town. Jefferson's lawsuit claims police have subjected Lexington residents to false arrests, excessive force, and intimidation. Now, Jefferson's attorney, Michael Carr, issued a statement that reads in part, as an advocate for her clients, Jill Jefferson believes that this pattern and practice has happened to citizens in Lexington. Through this experience, she is showing the state, the area, and possibly the nation, the corrupt practices of this city. So we have some examples here of police brutality in Lexington. So here's a headline from Reason. Lawsuit, police officer broke a 61-year-old woman's leg, then bragged he, quote, man dropped her. Before assaulting her, the cops taunted her for being homeless, she claims. And according to the Lexington Police Department misconduct report, there was more than 12 formal complaints in 2022 filed against Lexington police officers. But of course, they're not the only city in Kentucky that has issues with police brutality. We can look at this headline from March of this year. Louisville police discriminated against Black people, United States Justice Department says. So, I mean, here, Ben, we have a story where someone who is a civil rights attorney, who knows her rights and knows that she's allowed to film the police, is the victim of a crime by the police and police brutality herself. I mean, or at least an unfair arrest. I mean, I'm sure the police officers just thought that they were going to abuse their power with a regular Black woman and that would be fine. And then it was probably the worst day of their life when they realized not only is she a civil rights lawyer, she's a civil rights lawyer who is currently suing us for police brutality.
Yes, oops on that for sure. Although I really do blame this civil rights lawyer for expecting to be allowed to expose the truth in Kentucky. That seems like she really miscalculated that situation. Move to a different state that's not a backwoods situation in which the police are super corrupt. And I put that wholly on her. I'm kidding.
Yeah, just for anyone who didn't catch on to that, it was a joke. All right, we've got one more story today, so let's dive into this next one. We finally got some good news, which is nice. After a long day of telling you all the horrible things that are happening, we get to end on something that is good, and that is that New York City has announced a minimum wage, a new minimum wage for app food delivery workers. Thank God. It's one of the, it's a more dangerous job in some cities than being a police officer is because of the amount of accidents that these delivery drivers get into. But let's get into the facts of what's going on here. From CNN, Manhattan's 60,000 food delivery workers currently make an average, on average, about $7.09 an hour, according to a news release from the city, explaining the new pay rate will allow them to eventually earn at least $19.96 an hour. The pay will increase to $17.96 an hour on July 12th and increase again to nearly $20 an hour in April of 2025. In a statement, our delivery workers have consistently delivered for us. Now we are delivering for them, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said. The new minimum pay rate, up by almost $13 an hour, will guarantee these workers and their families can earn a living, access greater economic stability, and help keep our city's legendary restaurant industry thriving. Of course, the delivery companies are not happy about this. They would like to be able to pay these drivers $0 if they could. I'm sure they would do that. So it's nice to see some government step up and demand that they pay them fairly. But of course, they're not happy. They made some statements to CNN. Let's read this first one. However, DoorDash said in a statement Sunday that it's considering litigation to push back against the city's, quote, extreme policy, saying it goes beyond the standards other industries are held to, though it's not opposed to a minimum wage for delivery workers. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's insane. Other industries, the workers have to make a minimum wage and they are held to that standard. The idea that it is an extreme policy that your industry would now be, the policy would actually be applied to them, finally. The idea it's extreme is ridiculous. Let's keep going though. We got another one here. Today's deeply misguided decision by the DCWP ignores the unintended consequences it will cause and sadly will undermine the very delivery workers it seeks to support, a spokeswoman for the company said. Given the broken process that resulted in such an extreme final minimum pay rule, I'm gonna pause right there. Extreme? That's bare $17 an hour and even $20 an hour in New York City is not that much money. The cost of living there is absurd. That is almost still too little money to be giving them. It's, I don't know, Ben, this is just making me so angry to read.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they get tips on top of that, but agreed, the cost of living in New York is very, very high, and this is quite the move by Adams. I think it's fantastic to be paying people as much as possible for the jobs that we all rely on. This is almost a 200% pay raise, which is far more than any union would ever negotiate for and ever ask for. And of course, delivery drivers should have a minimum wage and it should be a generous minimum wage. I think this rate is fantastic. I do hope that it doesn't result in them having to use robots to make deliveries instead or do something else if they feel they cannot actually afford it. But if the numbers bear out and if they did due diligence to figure out that this can be, taken on by the restaurants and not put them into financial trouble, because running a restaurant is not easy either, I'm all in favor of it. It's fantastic. I want the minimum wage to be as high as possible for everybody, obviously, as long as it doesn't put those people out of work. So hopefully it's all good, but it's a great development. And I like New York stepping up to help the delivery workers that we all rely on. So it's very nice.
Right, and Uber Eats apparently is not going to step up and help these workers, or they're upset that it's happening because we have this statement that they made to CNN. Uber Eats said the city is not, quote, being honest with delivery workers in a statement Sunday. Uber also owns Postmates, which is great. I think the idea that the city had to tell the Uber drivers, the delivery drivers, that they were being underpaid. The idea that they weren't acutely aware of their circumstances. And speaking of circumstances,
the city is lying to you. You're making plenty of money. Oh, I didn't realize that. Got it.
But yeah, let's talk about that because there's the level of poverty in New York City is very high. Let's pull this up. Almost 2.7 million New Yorkers, or 13.9% of the state's population, live in poverty. And a lot of the people living in poverty work full-time jobs. Some of them are delivery drivers. I just can't get over the idea though that they had to be told, right? I had no idea I wasn't making a lot of money until Eric Adams gave me a ring on the phone and said, hey, would you like to make more money?
I was making plenty of cash until Uber let me know that apparently I am so well paid. I'm rich.
All right, well, Ben, thank you so much for joining me today. Always a pleasure. Tell the people where they can find your work.
This Saturday, great show with Doug Stanhope, nowherecomedy.com. You can go to my website, bengleib.com, for all of my things. And follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. 3 stand-up comedy clips every week, plus my Rebel HQ videos, 2 a week there as well.
Great, and everyone also check out my Rebel HQ videos, YouTube and Facebook. And thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to stick around because we have Watch List with JR Jackson coming up after this. But thanks all for spending some time out of your day with us. Until next time.
Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's up, Ma? Welcome to the Watch List, you guys. It's a Tuesday edition. Every time I say this, it's because I have to make sure I remind myself, what the hell day of the week is it now? It's the second day. We're beginning to steamroll up this hill before we get to the middle of the week, as usual. Except there's a bit of a new surprise for you guys today. The guest of my show is a good friend. He hangs out sometimes, and also, the thing is, I said, fine, come on the show, bro, because he keeps asking me like every day, like, when can I come on the show, JR? When can I come on the show? When can I come on the show? So John Adirola, host of The Damage Report, is now on the show with a beautiful set. Look at this. Look at the lighting. Look at the hair. It's
not
nice.
bad.
It's laying perfectly across the front. This is a lovely day. What's up, John?
You'd almost believe it's a physical space instead of a green screen. You'd almost believe that. And thus the conspiracy theories are born. But anyway, very glad to be here. You've been on TDR like 7 or 8 times at least. So it's good to finally pay it back. And you invited me. It was a bluff, but I called it. So now I'm here.
Big News Tuesday, should we call it? Who knows, whichever the hell day it is. Maybe we can make it a regular thing. John does not do enough extra shows, so we're gonna go ahead and try and add him to a little bit more. Glad you're here. Glad you guys are here. It's a bit of a reversed roles. In case you guys didn't see it the first time John came in, we had a lovely time. In fact, we've got a lot to talk about today, and we're gonna get his expertise on all that's going on. Specifically, starting with everything that's going on with Donald Trump. This indictment, the arraignment, is he showing up finally? There's protests everywhere. But before any of that, what we've got is more response. It's not even response from like, elected officials that are saying how ridiculous this is. It's from people in positions of power, some who hope to be elected officials who are just trying to gin up some violence. That's where we are now. Let's start here.
I have a message tonight from Merrick Garland and Jack Smith and Joe Biden. And the guys back there in the fake news media, you should listen up as well. This one's for you. If you want to get to President Trump, you're gonna have to go through me, and you're gonna have to go through 75 million Americans just like me. And I'm gonna tell you, most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA. That's not a threat, that's a public service announcement.
Kari Lake, I guess, has given up on her ambitions of talking about a stolen election in her race and just talking about straight violence. There she is now that Donald Trump is getting deeper and deeper into his legal issues. Now talking about she and 75 million other Americans are gonna be standing in your way before you can get to our president. I've got news, Kari. He's already showed up. That's what he has to do because it's the law. But still, she's pushing the violence, putting out the NRA and also saying you have to go through us. That's not a threat, that's a public service announcement. We'll see how that whole thing pans out because she's not the only one doing it. Do you think there's just a flash in the pan and there's just one person talking about this? This is beginning to pick up some extra steam. Andy Biggs, he's a representative. Of course he's Republican. This is what he tweeted. We've now reached a war phase. Eye for an eye. Okay, well, we need to get that first eye. Also, Clay Higgins tweeted this out. Apparently it was pretty cryptic. President Trump has said he has been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami today at 3 o'clock. This is a perimeter probe for the oppressors. Hold, look at this part. Our POTUS has this. Buckle up, 1 out of 50K know your bridges. Rock steady calm, that is all. He sounds like an effing clown. He sounds like he's absolutely ridiculous and has lost his mind. But you know what? That cryptic message actually means something. Professor and right-wing extremist expert Jeff Charlotte talked on PBS about what all this means from Higgins. Watch that.
Because it's such a specific call to prepare for battle. A perimeter probe he's saying that the oppressors, by which he means he sometimes refers to the cabal or even Leviathan, these are QAnon terms for the federal government, is testing the strength of the real people. Our POTUS, a term he's been using for several years, is the real POTUS. He believes Trump is the real president. Buckle up, obviously, is get ready. But 150K, I had to do some research. That's 1 to 50,000. The ratio, the scale of military grade maps. Know your bridges, I was familiar with, is militia speak for understand the points of attack. Literally, know the bridges that you can seize and hold and stop federal forces from coming in. Higgins in the minds of those who even see Trump as soft for not going into open combat is larger than them. The anger that Trump invokes, he's trying to keep up. In a Saturday night speech, he says either they destroy us or we destroy them. And I don't think he's speaking metaphorically anymore.
We went through the January 6th day. We went through the hearings for that whole year. We talked about all the things that they planned and said they were going to do, and then incited their followers to violence. And as they keep denying the fact that that happened, they're doing it yet again. Clay Higgins, elected official, literally sounds like a terror leader who's an enemy of the United States. I want you guys to flip these roles. We do it all the time. Imagine if, let's go with AOC. Let's go with, I was trying to think of a male congressperson or a senator on the Democratic side that maybe they hate so much. Let's go with AOC. If she just says, hold, the real president is ready, hold your bridges, be ready to effing attack. Do you think they'd go, oh, that sounds like some good, wholesome American speak there? But Clay Higgins does it, and he sounds like an absolute terror, a terror leader. And we're allowing this to still go down. Kimberly Guilfoyle is also a member of the Trump family by marriage. She says retribution is coming. It's constant. It's over and over and over again. As we know already, homegrown right-wing domestic terrorism is #1 kind of terrorism here in America. And these are reasons why, John. Here's a couple of your thoughts before we talk about why that's happening.
Yeah, the utter normalization of threats of political violence. It's the most common thing in the world, not only for regular right wingers to do, and they've been filling, the right wing message boards, the Donald and Discords and all that. But they're elites too, because they know that there's not going to be any consequences for it when you make a threat. Which, by the way, regardless of whether Kari Lake's comment was a public service announcement, it was also a threat. Can we be clear about that? You don't get to threaten to kill people and then just say it wasn't a threat, and the FBI is like, oh, she said it wasn't a threat. But of course, they're not going to pay attention anyway. So look, they're definitely threatening mass violence. So that's a part of this. But the part, like, I'm just so used to that at this point that the part that I'd rather focus on is when someone like Clay Higgins is like, our POTUS and 150K. I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to look this guy up because maybe he was in the military. It still wouldn't make what he's doing now anything other than like the biggest dweeb move ever. Like, you're not still in the military, you dork. But I looked it up and no, he was in like the cop part of the Louisiana National Guard. And then he managed car dealerships. This is cosplay, is all this is. There is no substantive difference between Clay Higgins talking about like, know your bridges and all that, and me talking about like stationing elvish archers on the barricades. It's all fantasy nonsense that has no relation to their actual life, okay? I can talk about saving lightning bolts for when the FBI approaches. It doesn't make you cool and it doesn't make you tough. And any right wingers watching this, never forget that they might convince you to storm the barricades, but Kari Lake isn't gonna be 100 miles near there. Clay Higgins is not gonna be taking a bullet for Trump. He's just hoping to convince you to.
That's what they need. You always need your foot soldiers. You always need the front linemen to die. Yo, that's old school warfare. Put all these guys at the front, let them get shot first, and they're dying for their country. Except now they're dying against their country. They're dying for Donald Trump. You know who's not gonna be putting his face in front of it? That same guy who before January 6th went down, stood in front of all these folks and said, come with me. Guess who wasn't there? It'll happen consistently over and over and over again. The number of times he screwed over people who said, oh, that's my guy, because I'm next to him, suddenly he's gonna be on my side, he's gonna protect me, and then he doesn't, and they go, but I thought I was special. Then the next, and the next, and the next. We have an endless supply of bodies, warm bodies, willing to put themselves right in front of any kind of danger so they can be the danger. Because again, fantasy land, John, as you pointed out, because of fantasies. We've got 10-year-olds in 30, 40-year-old people's bodies that are talking about these types of actions that they're looking to carry out and have no clue how to. Oh, but there's this military speak, so that means I'm a tough guy. Yo, it's a clown approach here. And you know what? It's embarrassing as a country that we look like this. It's part of the reasons why we're collapsing right under ourselves. No one has to attack us. Just go ahead and allow the hatred to flow and the attacks will come from within. Again, the #1 kind of terrorism in America is homegrown right-wing terror. And we're looking at it in front of our faces right here. Let's go to this next story. since we're talking about violence in this country that continues to grow at the hands of Republicans. Let's go ahead and start here because Representative Jim McGovern is pushing back on some, I guess, a limitation on some regulations that Republicans are looking to push. Let's watch this.
In the aftermath of massacres, they don't get the sense that there's any outrage by the people who are pushing things like this. And again, I just point out again for the record, the guy who is the author of this bill, I think has a conflict of interest. I mean, he sells these things, and he's the one who's pushing it. So, I mean, I don't. This place is all screwed up, in my opinion, right now. They have the votes to get this to the floor. I don't know whether they have the votes to pass it. I hope not. But at some point, enough has to be enough.
In between mass shootings that actually make national news, we're wondering what's going on with many of these gun regulations or lack thereof in our Congress. Democratic Representative there, Jim McGovern, is calling out some of these Republicans that are trying to loosen them even further. So this is the period, I think, of thoughts and prayers that we're supposed to be giving when we're supposed to wait to start thinking and praying, or maybe actually doing something. Either way it goes, what he's pushing back on is these new, at least lack of regulations the Republicans are trying to push. These are pistol stabilizing braces. Now, the ATF put this in place because these make it easier to shoot with one hand and be more accurate and take out more humans as possible. These are braces that are mounted onto pistols to make firing with one even easier. And these Republicans want these limitations on them lifted. Despite the fact, by the way, these stabilizers were used in the mass shootings in Dayton, Ohio, and also in Boulder, Colorado. Now, he talked about a conflict of interest McGovern did there. That one congressman that was author of this bill is one Andrew Clyde. He was talking on Steve Bannon's show about his struggle to get this bill limited, or at least the bill to limit this hold on these stabilizers. Let's listen to him talk to Bannon about this.
I was called about 12:30 or so on Wednesday, and I was told by leadership that that if I didn't vote for the rule, that it would be very difficult to bring my bill to the floor. Now, remember, the bill that I have is H.J. Res. 44. This is the pistol brace rule. This is a rule, or this is a bill rather, that takes down the overreach of the ATF. The ATF is trying to become Congress here and create a law that they don't have the authority to create. A law that makes felons out of tens of thousands, actually millions, really, if you look at what CRS, Congressional Review, says about how many potential pistol braces.
Congressional Research Service.
That's correct. I'm sorry.
That's right. Congressional Research Service has said what about this? How many people, how many potential felons out there in this country if this thing's not passed?
Congressional Research said that there's anywhere from 10 million to 40 million of these braces out there. So there's that, potentially there's that many people that would be affected by this ATF rule.
Representative Clyde there is talking about a deal he made with Kevin McCarthy in order to vote for that debt ceiling, a deal that many Republicans didn't want to vote on because they like to destroy everything in the country. But the deal was made because again, Representative Clyde sells guns and gun parts, including things like this. He wanted to put this as something we can limit the ATF from regulating these particular things that would help people to murder fellow Americans or anybody that they choose to murder. So Representative Clyde is then also complaining about how he had to come to the deal, to the negotiating table with his fellow Republicans on this same thing. Now they're a little bit divided over it, but they at least both got their way to a degree. This bill is has made it out of committee, and they're seeing if they can go further to the full House and maybe even Senate, and then get to the president's desk, which he's vowed to veto. So it doesn't have much chance of making it, but they're still complaining over it. Here, Representative McGovern is still calling this whole thing out. Again, I'd like to shine a little bit light on the way the process of our elected officials don't actually care about how many humans and Americans are getting killed on a daily basis at the hands of guns. In fact, they continue to do things like this. Here, let's let McGovern keep talking on this.
I get it. The bill's author owns a gun shop and makes millions from selling guns and gun accessories, including stabilizing braces. Sure sounds like a conflict of interest to me, but we are considering it because Speaker McCarthy is trying to put down a far-right rebellion. So we will vote on a bill to make it easier to kill people. He has given away everything to a small group of radical Republicans who will continue to demand more and more from him, apparently now including letting them dictate exactly what bills come to the floor.
McGovern's just calling it out as he sees it. But again, how much do we really see it? This is within committee. Maybe it's going to get to the floor. Who knows? He's hoping it won't either. But one more piece here, John, because the icing on the cake is this whole thing. We talked about the debt ceiling deal. We talked about how much money gets spent. And the narrative is always those Democrats, they're overspending. And then we need to cut things like entitlements. Americans don't need anything. They only pay all their taxes and expect something back in return in the greatest nation on the face of the earth. So what it is that they're looking to do is spend more on this than anything else, so that maybe there's a better chance that you'll get shot in the face. Let's listen to this last part because he's pointing out how bad this really looks.
It's really kind of ironic, especially after the gentleman from Texas's comments about the debt ceiling and all the, the controversy generated by some of the extreme members of the Republican conference